It's 12 o'clock in Frisco, Texas, and it's time for Smoker Broker Radio with Robert Mesh, a.k.a. the Smoker Broker. Robert is the owner of Small World Realty and has employed hundreds of real estate agents in his 17-year career. He has instructed and mentored over 10,000 real estate agents at the highly acclaimed Champions School of Real Estate and is considered an expert in Texas residential realty. Robert is also an advocate of true entrepreneurial spirit and has helped many to transition from corporate America into the world of self-employment. And now live from the studio to your world, the Smoker Broker.
Hey, welcome to Smoker Broker Radio. I'm Robert Mesh, and I am the guy they call the Smoker Broker. Happy Thursday. Hope everything's going well. Continuing to move on, getting through the summer, going through COVID. Days change every day, something new, all types of news out there. You know, one thing that was interesting to me this morning as I was reading through everything, and this is kind of off subject of COVID, but I thought it was interesting because it kind of applies to when we talk about honesty and stuff like that. You know, I'm a pretty big guy on, being very straightforward, very blunt, big on ethics, honesty and everything. And they were talking this morning about the whole Houston Astro thing, with the paybacks for the cheating, and now for those of you, that watch this, every team's out there legitimately trying to hit almost every one of the people who were a part of that scandal. And I've been watching it, and I've never been a big fan of so I don't like the NHL fighting. I think that's I don't know how it's not against the law to hit someone like that. I've never been a fan of, literally trying to kill somebody with a baseball. But I got to tell you, the Major League Baseball players, they have a certain way of enforcing their sacred code, and they don't need the court to resolve what they think was a terrible injustice to the game. So I saw this morning where the one Dodger pitcher, I think it was Kelly, whoever it was, he got tossed for 8 games for literally throwing at multiple hitters, obviously doing it. And, the reaction to it was pretty interesting because the players all came out and they're infuriated by the suspension. It's kind of funny when players stand up for a guy who's throwing at somebody, trying to hit him and hurt him, and they're the ones standing up saying, hey, he has every right to try to do that because of what happened. So, it gets into this thing about, honesty. The Astros, I was a Houston Astros fan. I still am. I don't think you can blame the entire organization. Well, you can blame a damn good bit of them. But I still love the Astros, have and always will. But deep down inside, I'm like, yeah, maybe that's a little bit deserving for a few of those guys. Now, I don't know how long it goes on. I don't know how long you enforce it. But one thing's for sure, it does make the point, and this is where I'm going with this as far as business goes, with anything that you do. When you start being deceptive, deceitful, dishonest, there is a consequence, and in every job and in every business, it's a different type of consequence. But I'm going to tell you right now, the consequence to those guys right now of having that ball thrown at them kind of makes me think that maybe it's just a little bit justified for the way they tried to cheat that game. And it's hard to have sympathy for them when they look up and they're wondering why it happened. How long it goes on and how right is it to continue to do it? How long do you enforce the sacred code and the payment of it? I don't know, but it does show there are consequences for your action. That's a really kind of off-road vision of, enforcement and consequences and things. But I thought it was interesting. I read the article this morning. I've been watching it a lot lately, and I was fascinated by it because it does show that there is always some type of consequence to whatever we're doing, in real estate. And I'm not superstitious in any way, but I've always believed that there is this sick type of karma. Like if you do something wrong, it always comes back at you. And I kind of believe that. So I thought the two I thought that the story itself was pretty interesting today. We are going to talk about lead generation. This is probably one of the most interesting topics that we have for our viewers. Not so much our clients on this one. Usually we try to have the show where the clients and the agents across the country benefit from it. But on this particular show, we are actually looking at the agents and how they generate leads. How do they bring people on? This is literally a 6-month conversation that we don't have 6 months for. We literally have like 45 to 50 minutes. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about an overview. Now, when I talk about topics like this, I have to have my crew on it. Today, I brought more than I normally have because I want them to be a part of this conversation, because these are the guys that actually drive the business that we do. So we're going to bring on, I don't see them right now, but they're somewhere out there, I guess. We're going to bring those guys on here in a second, and they're going to help us talk about the lead generation side. And we're really going to go over a broad range, but I'm going to give you a good summary as to what this discussion is going to look like. You really have 3 buckets of lead gen, okay? Yeah, you've got one side, you have the modern millennial way. And what I call that is that's all the young guys coming in and they purchase leads off of Zillow, Realtor.com, and that's how they drive their business, because they're sitting there going through and paying for leads that they might not have got somewhere else. This became a fad 10 to 15 years ago, where some of the older ways, people didn't think they were working as much. And as the technology came up, people were like, oh, someone's already done the work for me, so I'll just go to them. And then they go and they say, I'm going to pay for that. And then this became an absurd type of thing that really got out of control, is out of control in my opinion. I actually think it's kind of watered down, because now everybody goes to buy leads. Well, there's only so many leads with so many real estate agents, right? So that's one side of this, right? One side of the bucket is paying for leads. This is a major way that many brokers feed leads into their agents. Whether they're good or not is a whole nother conversation. Then you have the middle bucket. You have your family and friends. These are the people that you believe are probably going to help you the most, more than anybody. One, because they're your family, and two, you think because they should do that. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a secret, and we always try to give takeaways from the show. So here's the first one today. And some of you will be surprised, especially your newer agents coming on. Your family is usually the last one that's really willing to help you out, because this is exactly how this works. You know, let's say someone like your sister wants to sell their house. So they're sitting there talking to their spouse, and they're like, well, I'm going to let David, sell the house. And the other spouse is like, yeah, I don't know. David's pretty new to this. And, I just don't think that that's a good idea. Right? That actually is reality. Now, the funny part of this conversation is that if they see a friend and their friend says that they're going to buy a house, they're like, you should go talk to David. So, this is like this, it's this terrible hypocrisy that they're a little bit leery to use you because they know you and you're new, but they have no problem sending you out to somebody else. So this is an interesting concept. And then you have your final third bucket, which is what some people would call the old school way, which is hard knocks networking, getting out there, putting yourself out there, talking to people. Now, I'm what's referred to as like a transitional broker. That means that I've been around long enough that I know the old way, the manual way to do these things, but I was also tech savvy enough to pick up on the new version of it. And I will tell you, knowing both sides very well, I still favor the old-fashioned way. I still favor the networking side of this, because one thing I failed to mention a minute ago about the millennial side and the purchasing the leads left and right, it's a very cold lead. Even if you close that individual, the chances of them having repeat business with you, they're very slim. It's very slim. It's a very cold relationship. Whereas on the other side of the bucket, where we're talking about networking, these become relationships for life. These become relationships for life, for I mean, for 20, 15, 30 years, 5 years, these continue on. So for me, and it's opinion, there are a lot of brokers that do much more business than I do, make a lot more money than I do, that would swear that the internet purchasing lead is the best way. It's the only way to do this. And the other way is a waste of time. I am not one of those people. My business has been built on that networking, and my job is to make sure that majority of my agents realize that that's the way I think that they should be doing this versus the other way. Now, my greatest hope is that they use all three of them in a very consistent way. I'm not saying do not use the technological side. Of course, we're going to use the technology side. We're in a technology age. I'm just saying you don't rely on everything. You don't just say everything is going on this bucket. You know, we want to separate each of them. So my greatest hope is that we go through a little bit of each of these. So we're going to talk about that today. Now I've got my guys up. I brought a few more than I normally do because I want them to spin these conversations around. Got my buddy Mike Dellis up here in the corner. My other buddy here, David Tung. Another David Tanner. Very confusing when I have these two on here. And then my guy, Brent Holberg, down there. He runs my stuff and keeps me in line, makes sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and probably is better at doing most things that I am, as the rest of these guys are too, which is why they're on the show, and we're going to discuss this. So I want to start with the one bucket where we're talking about the lead purchasing. Now, I've got this is probably the one time in the last 2 years that this guy can finally talk a lot, and he's going to, because he does a lot of this in the past and still does it a lot. So, David Tung, I want you to talk about this process. You know, David's an interesting case, and I've always been super impressed with him. I don't like to praise him at all, but I'm going to tell you right now, David is one that came in to Dallas-Fort Worth. He had lived in California for quite some time, has no connection to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And y'all, I'm going to tell you, as a massive recruiting broker, that is not usually what you want to hear when you talk to your agent. You're like, oh, great. And this guy doesn't know any part of Dallas-Fort Worth. He doesn't have any friends here. Probably doesn't have any friends in California either. So he comes here, and I'm like, this guy has no chance at all. And sometimes we actually had that view. We're like, this is going to be really tough. David is the exception to the rule. And it's not so much an exception. It's because of his work ethic and his desire to be successful. And this is something he truly does better than anything I could ever do. You know, I like to think that I have expertise in all this material and that I am better than most in everything that we do. Not on this one. He's better than me at this. He takes more time with it. He's analyzed it. He understands it. So I want him to talk to you a little bit. And you know, Mike and David and Brent, you guys chime in because you know David doesn't like to talk a lot, but guide him in this direction. I want y'all to have a decent conversation right now about purchasing these leads, how many we have to go through, all that type of stuff. David, go ahead and start them off.
Well, so Robert covered most of the summary of my background. I'm done. And then normally I'm very shy too. So I came from sales and marketing background, right? So I understand, you know, cold calling and purchasing leads are very important for certain aspect of sales business. So when I first moved out here, I was like, hey, like Robert said, I have nobody here. So the only way for me to open the dialogue with anybody in front of me is actually purchasing leads. And there are various great sources, you know, there were Zillow, Facebook, Realtor.com. However, they are expensive, and definitely buying leads are not for everyone. It's not a guaranteed lead, right? So if you get a name and phone number, the person doesn't really just necessarily go, oh yeah, I'm going to buy a house right now, or I want to sell my house right now. You have to work them and understand the dynamic of how to work with clients that you don't know. They don't know who you are, for one. Right. So you kind of have to build a relationship and trust and understanding, offering them, you know, all the detailed services that you can provide. But most of the time is, you know, the main goal getting internet leads is trying to meet them face to face at the end. And this goes back to where Robert talks about the old fashioned way, right? You want them to, you know, meet face to face, show them a house so you can understand their needs. They know who you are that way. And Brent will actually tell everybody as well, because they were I funneled through a few leads to Brent, and Brent got those leads, and he had to do the same thing, right? I mean, it's not a guarantee. You may have to purchase 100 leads in order to able to talk to maybe 30 people consistently, and you probably end up meeting them face to face, 10 to 15 of them. Okay,
and the success ratio might not even be
right.
2
That's just on a good day, and that's a lot of legwork. Basically, all you do is trying to book schedules, schedule showings, meet them face to face, and sometimes they may end up finding a different agent, or they have a family member, right? Because they go online, they click on, oh, I'm interested in this house, so they just click on it. The lead get funneling to me, and they didn't know who I am. They wasn't expecting a call from me most of the time. So some of them, they do have a realtor working with already, and some of them they don't. And then out of those 15 you meet, you probably get immediate close out of maybe like 1 to 3 deals, all of it. So national average is about 3.5 to 6.5% closing ratio per 100 leads.
That's brutal. That's brutal.
It's really, really brutal.
Yeah. And for the agents that are watching, there'll be a lot of people that watch this particular one. That's tough. So here's the thing on that, though. The return's not so great, but there's a return. There's business there. David doesn't have his first or second year without that. So it really comes down to, are you willing to put that type of effort, to execute that type of stuff? Now, I would never have done that. Even if I'm a practicing volume agent right now, I probably don't do that. But I know damn good and well,
it's hard.
The peers, they're good at it.
Yeah, it's just, you just have to hammer every single lead. I mean, okay, I shouldn't use the word hammering. It sounds bad. But you literally just have to contact everybody, try to schedule meetings, and you might do, I don't know, 20, 30 showings in 1 week, and you never heard back from those people ever again. However, here's the catch. After the second year of, helping some of these leads turn into clients, right, they end up referring their friends and family and coworkers back to me. And so on, and just this whole repeat business started happening in my 4th and 5th year, okay? Which it does help. I mean, again, it is expensive. When I say expensive, it's not like $200, $800. I mean, you can go with the lower end, but your return on investment is pretty much giving away your money, right? So there are some agents spend between $2,500 all the way to $15,000 a month.
So I got better than that. I had a conversation with someone in private the other day with another broker. Of course, I'm not going to mention the name.
It's in private. Let's go to the radio.
Yeah, right. But I was shocked at how much this particular brokerage, it wasn't one of the mainstream ones. I was shocked at how much they're pumping in. $150K a month.
Ooh.
Now that's a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. Now, of course, this broker distributes the leads to their agents. And don't get too excited for your brokers who don't do that. Those agents have to pay a ton of money for those leads. Yeah. That broker ain't saying, here you go. That's what I'll always love a broker. And I mean this sincerely. I love it when a broker tells agents, oh, yeah, we give you leads, but they fail to say, yeah, if you're going to pay for a shitload of it, meaning I'll give you a lead, but I'm going to take 90%, you get 10%. It's interesting that people aren't more forthcoming with that. Now, don't get me wrong. I have no problem with that. And you will find that some of the most mega agents that we have in any of the major brokerages, especially even in Keller Williams, there are agents that only get that 10 or 20%, but they make 200 or 300K, but they will tell you though, they are working. I mean, they are working nonstop, answering, calling, do calls. It's a hard job. And we have some of the best in the country, It just depends on what you want to do, right, David? I mean, it just depends.
Right.
Is that what you want to do?
And also here I want to cover this portion is in all fairness, broker who charge agents for leads, it's probably the right way to do, in my opinion, because this way holds each agent, responsible for their leads. When you give away leads, most agents, they make 1 or 2 phone calls and they stop, right? But if the agent is paying for it, what's the agent going to do? They're going to make sure they get their ROI back.
Yeah, I got to tell you, one of the things of the many that I've been impressed. In fact, it's almost a year today that we came back into Keller Williams. And I've learned a lot of stuff in the past year. But one of the things that impresses me the most is the accountability that those mega agents or mega teams have on those ISAs, those inside sales associates. I mean, we'll use your word, David, they hammer them. I mean, they beat them down to make sure they do what they're supposed to do, that they're calling X amount of people. They watch their retention ratio, how many clients did they pick up. It's a tough job. And I think they do a fantastic job of monitoring it. It makes me feel inferior. When I watch them, I'm like, wow, am I just lazy or what? Because I have never done that type. I mean, but that's over 50% of their week is watching those guys make those calls and converting them. So I'm just like, and for everybody out there, everyone does real estate different. I'm extremely different in the Keller Williams environment. I am not the status quo Keller Williams. This is how we do, which I would hope Keller Williams likes, that we have a very good variety of agents and teams and brokerages that do things in different ways. I've been successful not taking that route. Sure, we'd probably be a lot more financially stronger if we had been doing it. I didn't want to dedicate that much of my week to that. And that's what I respect in a lot of the peers that I have that do this. That's their commitment and that's what they want to do. And they are very wealthy because of it. I enjoy real estate. I enjoy being able to deal with all the people that I have. I like the operational side. So it's really a personal choice, but this is absolutely a valid way to do your real estate business. I personally don't think you should put all your eggs in that basket, but I think you should entertain it. Even my agents who are watching right now and who watch on archive and any of the other office agents in the Keller Williams world and any other brokerages that watch, I do think you should make an attempt to purchase some leads every once in a while. Do I think you should spend $10,000 a month? No. Now, one thing that I encourage our guys, and David's worked on this a lot and he continues to work on it, I think, and this is an opinion, I think that it's a good idea for a lot of the agents to pool together to like have 5 or 6 people. And I'm actually telling my guys personally, I like to do the show for a national perspective, but I'm telling my own guys right now, you really should try harder to get with several other members in the team and say, look, let's put X amount each of us and we'll divide these leads up and see if anything comes from it. Because now we're leveraging the cost, but we actually might get something from it.
You get more. You also get more leads back.
Yeah, I think my team does a poor job of that. And that's my fault because I don't push it enough. But I think that that's something that we should do a better job on. I don't think we should spend $10,000 a month on that. Do I think maybe 4 or 5 guys should spend $1,500 or so? Yeah, I do. I think that's a small cost out there. So I love that. This conversation can go on forever. I mean, literally, we can talk until December about the lead gen stuff. Things. And in fact, we might want to do a whole show just on how, David did a really good job of setting up the summary, which is exactly what I wanted him to do, of how the process works. But if we actually started getting into it, like he mentioned,
it's a 5-hour conversation for anybody who calls me, just FYI.
Yeah, he mentioned the calls and stuff. That's like step one. Step one is, well, how did I get the calls? How did I get that information? Now, where did I go? What were my scripts? How many times did I call them back? Did I set up an appointment with them? What do I actually consider a true lead? A lead is not a pass by. There are certain things that have to happen to say that was an active lead. This can go on forever. This is like the top of the iceberg, the very tip that we're introducing. And the whole purpose of the show is to open up doors for you that you start pursuing things that you haven't done before. The details and the things that you do day to day. Okay. So that was a really great job. Exactly what I wanted to cover from that perspective. Whole lot more information there. I want to kind of get into the second and third bucket because I actually want to get through the buckets, at least the summary of the buckets, so it preludes for shows that are coming up on each of these particular topics. So we started talking about friends and family as a middle summary, okay? And I was serious about what I said when it comes to family. Sometimes they can be the most distant in the beginning because they're just not trustworthy of you. And plus, they know all your BS from the rest of your life. So they're like, I don't know. Old Tanner, he's, I'm just not sure that that's what he knows what to do there. So we're probably going to on that. Now, this is a very good takeaway from the show. And it's not so much tactical as it is emotional for you, but it's a big piece of becoming a real estate agent and learning to deal with it. Some of the most low times in your real estate career, some of the hardest points in your real estate career, some of the most crushing points in your real estate career are when you feel like your family betrays you. I cannot count these stories of agents where their family, how they felt that the family betrayed them. It's happened to me too. You know, it's very hard to take because you're obviously of the opinion if you can't win your family over, then who the hell can you win over? Now, a good takeaway from that, that's probably the opposite view, right? The family's the toughest one. I wouldn't be so concerned about being the ruler of being able to get all the business in my family. I'm more concerned that my family's not going to drive my business, all right? It's going to be people outside that. Now, I want them to be a part of it, but to sit there and tell myself that if I can't win my family, I can't win anybody else, that's not true. You actually might be better with somebody else than you are with your direct family. So good takeaway here is don't get too caught up in what your family does or does not do for you. And certainly don't get caught up that if they decide to go elsewhere, that that's something that emotionally hurts you. Now, I will admit from a bias side, there are plenty of agents that we have where their family does that it's very hard for me not to pick up the phone and go, that was pretty freaking stupid. Because that person is going to do more than any other person you would have found to get that house sold. And they're going to be the only ones that probably tell you genuinely and truthfully what should happen. And you just put them on the backside because you didn't want to use a member of your family because you didn't trust them or for whatever reason you did. I'm not saying I'm against what they're saying, what they're doing, but don't think I don't want to pick up the phone sometimes. That was a lousy, shitty thing to do. And the general public that watches the show, I mean that too. I do think it's pretty gross when you don't help out your own family members, no matter what their experience is. You should at least be willing to give them a shot. I think that's the hardest thing that I hear from my agents all the time. There's anybody who's listening that wants to dispute me or, say, well, you don't know. Believe me, I do know. I do understand. And I do know that there are exceptions to the rule. I'm not talking about the exceptions. I'm talking the mainstream where you legitimately don't give your family member a chance just because you're a little uneasy that they just started. Very.
Hey, Robert.
Yeah.
I have an interesting story just on this topic alone. I recently have a cousin of mine, a first cousin who lives south of Fort Worth. She just bought her first home in many years since she divorced. And we've talked real estate before. She knows I'm a realtor. Well, come to find out, she didn't call me to consult about this. She knew somebody else through her church, worked with them, bought the house. But then, well, what's funny is about 2 weeks after she closed on her house, I had another family member who's not blood related, but it's my brother-in-law's niece. She called me wanting help because she knew I was a realtor. And then, of course, she's in the millennial generation. And she and I have talked about it before at family gatherings. And just out of the blue, she reached out to me. And it turned out that I'm going to refer her. I've already referred her to another agent because it's kind of further out, so I've given it to somebody else with more expertise in that area.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's going to end up, in a referral situation. So it can go both ways.
That's right. That's great. And I like how you said that because I'm talking about the negative side, but you're right. There is a positive side to it. There are some family members that you would never even think would help.
Oh, I would have never thought she would have reached out to me.
That's right. Well, and that goes with the conversation we had a few weeks ago on the show, where if you're not farming your out of area friends and family and contacts, meaning like, let's say you're David and you're from Oakland. If he's not farming his friends and family in Oakland, then he's not doing a good job. He's not doing the job that he should. Now, Dallas, I think his family is around. Dallas, is your family all from around here? Is it all West Fort Worth?
Around here.
Outside here?
Yep, all here.
Yeah, he can't bust him because they're all here. He probably does a lousy job of the ones here, so I can bust him on that. But but if it's
I've
out
done
of
them all
area,
here.
if it's out of area, they should be doing those types of things. So I like that it does go both ways. It does. It doesn't have to be a negative perspective that they didn't help me. But the one true takeaway is do not get emotional about the family when it comes to real estate. They're going to have their reasons, and maybe it exposes a bigger rift in that relationship. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that they didn't use you. Maybe it shows that there was something else that was a problem that needed to be exposed. And now maybe it can be addressed, or maybe it can finish it off. It's amazing how many family members hate each other. Whew. You talk about.
And you can't take it personally. I mean, again, she's a first cousin, and we talk all the time mainly on social media. But she's known this agent forever, long before I ever became an agent. They're friends through their church, and I wasn't upset that she didn't, contact me.
Well, that's because of your integrity and your maturity and the way you present yourself, and that's what we pride our agents on, that they're capable of having that type of thick skin, because that's what you need.
Just go recruit that agent.
What's that?
Go recruit that agent, Tanner.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and of course, she didn't ask me for any advice, and I wouldn't have given her any anyway, because she was under contract with that agent. But she knows what I do. She follows the good thing is she follows my social media. She follows, all my real estate, blogs and that stuff that I put out there. So who knows, down the road, she may contact me.
All right. I want to do a quick sponsor break. And then when I come back, since Dallas has talked so much, I want him to discuss the cons about friends and family. Because one thing that's unique, I give most people who know me, the more people I give more shit to, because I love them more. Me and Dallas have been longtime friends, and he can really discuss this issue because we have a lot of friends in common. And over the years, some of those friends have actually gone with other real estate agents. I'm going to want him to talk about that when he comes back. So I always like to thank our sponsor. We're always very grateful. Martin Cooley with BPG Inspections is one of the preferred vendors and our inspector for the SWR group at Keller Williams, and for a lot of other agents in the region. I love the new setup here because now you get a little bit of a better vision as to what we're doing. We got a nice little bio about Martin. Martin, I hope you really appreciate that. And that goes for any sponsor that looks at our show. I've been talking every show recently about how our viewership is up. One, it's because I'm proud of it. Two, it's because I find that there's use in it. And even for you guys down below, both David, Mike, and Brent, if you haven't been watching, our viewership has gone from literally maybe 200 or 300 viewers a week on archive to easily 550 to 600 on given shows. So that means more people are watching. It means more people are coming back to watch. That's a thanks to you guys, but it's also very good for our sponsors too. I do run what's considered to be one of the largest Keller Williams groups in the country. There are a lot of people inside the Keller Williams environment that watch this. There are a lot of other brokers that are peers of mine that watch this particular show. So it always is very good advertising. And it doesn't cost that much to advertise on the show. So if you're ever interested in that, you should talk to us about that. Martin's a great inspector. He really specializes in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There are tons of inspectors out there. We always give at least 2 or 3 other referral names out there because we don't want to say you should use this particular individual. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that we do say, look, this is the guy we typically use. We've used him for years. We've never had any issues. He's great with the communication to the clients. He's a great person in general. His number is right down there below, 817-401-3240. Literally, of all the vendors I've had over the years and all the inspectors, he is by far the only one I have never had to get in an argument with. And that's a fact. I have never had to get in an argument with Martin about something he did or something that he said. And that is very hard to do in this particular business. So always thank you very much, Martin, for your sponsorship. Always appreciate your business and your friendship relationships to us. All right, back into this. So I was talking about how me and Dallas typically run around some of the same people, which they're awful. That's a terrible thing for both of us. But we do have some long time, 20, 30-year friends. Actually, for Mike, 40-year friends for someone who's pretty much known him since birth. Mike, we're not going to mention names, right? But you and I have known a few people in our clan that have kind of gone and looked at and used another real estate agent, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, you're a pretty laid-back guy most of the time. And I actually think it's one of your strengths that you're really not fazed by, anything that's terrible. In fact, I've really never seen you go off one way or the other. I've never seen you be super happy or super irritated. It's a really interesting trait that you have.
We're probably not around each other enough then.
Well, no, that's true. Okay. I'm sure if I asked Robin, she would have a different conversation with you on that. But in the end, the point I'm making there is it's the type of quality an agent has to have to deal with this type of unpleasantness. So let's see. I'm trying to think. Mike had one friend. He has more than one friend, but he has one friend that literally, I want to say he's 30. I want to say it's 30-year friendship. He knows Mike does this. It's been a few years back. He had mentioned to Mike about, possibly purchasing a house or whatever, enough to where they had dialogue. But then the next thing you know, the guy closes on a $370,000 house, and it's really not even a consequence. It's really just like, oh, hey, I bought this house. I'm like, what the hell? Why would you have gone that route when you've known him for 30 years? He's done it for all this time, and then you have to celebrate it as if, like he doesn't give a damn about that. So we see these instances, and it's not just Mike. I use Mike because some of those people are our friends in common, and Brent sees it. Both the Davids see it too. It's a reality that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and quite honestly, it's a part of the job. I think the toughest thing for new agents is to thicken their skin. There's going to be disappointment, and sometimes it's worse than others, and it doesn't have to be a clear slap in the face. Like sometimes it's one of the friends that it's one of your close friends, and then maybe it's their sister. So you're dealing with their sister, who basically is like your family too. But then because you don't see them all the time, you find out that they went ahead and bought like a $600K house, and then they tell you about it. It's like they're oblivious to that. Well, hey, thanks for taking $18,000 from me. I appreciate that. It's like it's of no consequence. And let me tell you, you want a real good takeaway, and this goes for any of the agents who are watching that their families ever burned them before. The real consequence on not using your family member, they probably would have given you some of that back. They probably would have given you some type of preferential treatment where they gave you money back. And made it worth your while to do it much more than somebody else. So you're really only screwing yourself. And it also depends too on what it is that you're dealing with. We're very upfront in our particular team that all the guys go through me before they go do anything. I mean, these guys don't because they don't have to. But the majority of the other people,
Wait, we do?
they have to come through us. So it's not like they're brand new. They have the same experience that I do. So it's annoying when a family member, just says something like, well, I don't think you're experienced enough. Did you even ask? Did you ask who helps them and how they do it? You actually would have found that you're probably in pretty damn good shape.
Or the worst, when they ask you to look over the contract for them. Hey, can you take a look at this and make sure everything's going correctly?
That's my favorite too. Or I like it when, hey, I'll pay you something for this. Oh, you mean not the 18,000, but maybe
Yeah.
like $100 or something?
$100 to Tony Roma's, baby.
I think sometimes there's an awkwardness dealing with a close family member. I don't know if it's, I don't want you to know what my personal finances, or I just don't want you, yes, you're family, but I don't want you involved in something that's this intimate, to me and to my.
We talked about this on a couple shows, and it's good to bring up again. We were talking about this when dealing with disappointment and expectations when someone does that. Yes, there are times, and that's why I said there are exceptions, and that is one of the exceptions, where the family member actually has something personal that they don't want you to know. I will not be hypocritical. In fact, that's the last thing anybody would ever call me. I have some very good friends that are they're pretty much family to me that are lenders. And I think it would hurt them to know that at times I have had to use a lender that doesn't have my personal finances because I don't want that friend to know what our finances look like, and that can be hurtful, but I'm like, yeah, but that also makes a little bit of sense too. I really don't think you should know with the relationship that we've had, how much money we bring in, how much money we do or don't have, debt we do or we don't have, credit we do or we don't. I don't think that's any of your business. So
yeah, you put the heliport in, people kind of figured it out.
What's that?
You put the heliport in. I think people figured it out.
I think Tongue has more money than I do. I think he's
baby.
His little, all his money back in Taiwan.
And
It's in Cali, man. Cali.
And it's like anything else, right? I mean, I know several lenders that I know pretty well, but I'm not going to use all of them. I mean, we're getting ready to do a refi, and I'm going to choose one of them. But for various reasons, I'll pick the one that I think is the the best for our situation.
Well, and the one that's actually helped you. I mean, a lot of times I want to
that's right.
Street, I
that's
want
right.
to say, hey, look, it's not like I've turned my back.
David just said it. David just said the magic words.
What's that?
He knows a lot of people that do mortgages. So people are going to know a lot of people that are realtors.
It's true. It is.
So I mean, how do they choose one?
Yeah. You're right. Where do we draw the line and say, well, I'm going to use you over this person? And how do I not hurt that person's feelings? That becomes difficult. And that is where this friends and family all really kind of, mess it around. I will tell you that the good conclusion to the family and friends is that unless you're some type of jerkwad, most of your family and friends do use you after you've done it for a couple of years. And they do it religiously.
Right.
And not only do they use you, they are fanatical about passing your name on to other people. So
that explains everything.
We're acting like the friends and the family are this negative vibe. They're actually the most positive vibe. It's the amount of time it takes to get in there. Okay. All right. We're going to spend the last 10 minutes or so hitting what I actually think is the most important one from an opinion standpoint, which is the networking side. Okay. I consider this the forgotten art of modern day real estate agents. I think that a majority of the modern real estate agents have failed miserably in conducting hardcore, old traditional networking. Now, networking, you want to talk about a 6 months conversation. I actually think it's a 2-year or a 10-year conversation. Okay. And we're obviously not going to talk about all of it, but I'm going to break it down as to what the types are. And this is a good takeaway. And I think this is probably the most important part of the show because this is a core event here. We're going to talk about the areas of your networking, and you're going to be surprised what I actually think is the most favorable one. Okay. So let's start off with the obvious. Brent, what's a big event that just every realtor from here to Kingdom Come goes to because they want to network and we'll find them there? What's just one event that you can think of?
Those happy hours that always get put out.
No, don't get there yet. Don't get there yet. That's the punchline. I'm talking about a event where we
Good job, Brent.
where we dressed up and we went somewhere because that's where everybody else is going to do.
I don't know if I've ever been to one of those.
So I'm talking about Chamber of
So
Commerce.
listen closely, Brent. You're about to learn.
Yeah, I've never been to one of those.
Take notes.
Like a Chamber of Commerce is obviously a big networking event. There's tons of other people there. There's tons of people just like you. Everybody's trying to do the same damn thing. Is that the most prosperous networking event for us? No.
No.
Now, if you're able to differentiate yourself from your fellow agents, which is what makes a better agent, then yeah, that's a great place to go. But the reality that that's where your networking is going to be really key, probably not. Does that mean you don't do it? No, you do it. You do it consistently too. Because even if one person there uses you or refers you out, it was worth it. And I'm talking about a whole year worth of visits to that chamber. You got the Lions Club. That's a good one. You get the VFWs. There are all these places that have these formal events that you can network at. Not the most prosperous, but events you should consider. Now, there's a lot of more stuff that goes with that, but it's the general conversation, right? Then you have what's called organized networking groups that it is only one business per person in there. So you only have one
Industry.
mortgage guy. Yeah, one industry. One mortgage guy, one realtor, one lawn guy, one window cleaning guy. So you get the point, right? This can be an informal one. Now, this is the great takeaway. And that's why we love the show, because we don't mind sharing a lot of the secrets that have helped us over the years. I always say one of our mega agents, Ben Kenny, he's always very forthcoming about, he'll show you everything he does, but he'll tell you damn right you'll never do it anyway. So we're kind of the same opinion. We go through and we want to share those things because we do want you to try to use them. So these groups, they're individuals, okay? They're only one person in each of these in there. Now, it doesn't cost anything. They typically meet once a week, okay? Now, here's the takeaway that I was alluding to a second ago. Anywhere that you live close to you that you see like an IHOP, maybe a Broken Egg, any type of restaurant that has some type of conference room or meeting room, I can almost assure you, if you go to at least I could have assured you 4 months ago, I pretty much can't assure you anymore. But if you went there and said, hey, does anybody meet in that back room? I guarantee you almost every one of those places will be like, well, yeah, the NetWeavers meet back there on Tuesdays at 11 o'clock. You should ask for the contact person for that individual to see if it's possible that you're able to get in. Maybe the one at the IHOP is filled, but maybe the one at the Denny's or the one at the La Peep or whatever is open. It's up to you, and you continue to try to have consistency to go through these things where you actually make the attempt to talk to these people. Okay, so that's the other type. And in these types of situations, you go there, you mingle for 10 or 15 minutes. Everybody sits down, they order breakfast because that's the only reason that the business wants you there. And you get up, you give like a 3-minute elevator spiel. And the goal is for everybody else in that group to try to bring you business, and you do the same for them. Okay, that's the gist of a networking group, an informal one. All right. Now you got the formal networking group. Right, this is something like what would be a BNI, Business Networking International or something. This is the same philosophy, except on this one, you have to pay. You have to pay like $400 or $500 to get in, and then every month it's like $30 or $40 to $50, and you are held accountable in that one. You are actually of no use to that group if you don't bring referrals. They actually watch you, and if you're useless, they're like, you're out. You're not doing a damn thing for us. So there is some accountability, so much more formal structure. And then finally, this is kind of where we're going to end with this, because I actually think this is the most important one, and it's the most informal of all of them. Everybody always talks about when we refer to networking groups that you have to, put on like a ridiculous suit, and you go sit and you have all these formal conversations. You give your cards out, you talk business or whatever. That's like the worst type of networking group. The favorite networking groups that I have are the things that I like to do, the hobbies that I have, because one, it's groups of people. Two, it's people that I know very well. And 3, it's people who have used me over the years to do business. So I got 2 great examples, and I always love to tell them. I'll do the first one because Dallas can actually relate to this a lot, and actually so can Tung because he's working on this. So a lot of people don't know Dallas is, he doesn't say he's a professional anymore, but he really is. Dallas is a professional golfer. He definitely was able to compete at the amateur level and really close on that professional level. An outstanding golfer in itself. Now, Mike will tell you, though, Mike will tell you, though, he knows in the clubs, he's been to some of the most prestigious clubs in Dallas-Fort Worth. He will be the biggest advocate that old saying that business is done on the golf course, it's a true statement. It is. Business is done on the golf course. People always joke about it. Gambling, too, on the golf course. But it's
and the drinking.
What they're doing, right? So I'll use myself as an
example. You still owe me some money, Robert.
So I'm not that great of a golfer. Dallas will attend to that, but I am very consistent. 88 to 92 all day long, clean, no mulligans or anything. I've gotten better, Dallas. So 88 to 92 all day long. It's not something I have a lot of time for. Golf is brutal in its time frame. I do try to get out once or twice a month. Now, what's interesting about that is, Dina is very good about letting me do the things I need to do to get my releases out. She knows I don't have a lot of that, but it is hard. Even she will wince sometimes if I say I'm going to go play golf like on a weekend when the kids are around and I'm going to be gone for 7 or 8 hours, and I come back. It's not like she's berates me or anything, but she'll damn well give me the old, hey, did you enjoy yourself? And, I've always been very clear, like, Dina, I want you to understand, those 3 guys that I was with today, they've probably given us about $1 million over the years in income with things that they've purchased from us. I would hope that you're okay that I spent maybe 1 day out of every 3 or 4 months to go see them. Right? That is some people call BS on that. It's not. Yeah, I run a large company. I can make that statement. It's a true statement that really it is a very strong bonding. And not only do they do business with you, they're very good about giving your business. Like my barbecue guys, I think they're some of my biggest advocates. They'll go out there. I only see them once every 3 or 4 months, but I promise you, I know for a fact, if real estate comes up, my buddy Tyler, he's telling them, I got the guy for you. Because I kind of shift gears from golf to barbecue, but same thing. A lot of people ask me why I got into barbecue. Well, I always say the ridiculous answer is because I love drinking and smoking barbecue. But it does become a very good social networking group. And those people, I can't count the amount of business I have from barbecue. I can't. I mean, and so that alone. And I'll end with this one because it's my most comical one. So I like to play cards every once in a while. I don't get to do it near as much as I used to. Probably pay for not reasonable. It should not be like that. But the group I play with, I've played for probably 15 years. A very hardcore networking group. Maybe once or twice a month, I'll come home at 2 or 3 in the morning. And, and Dina's great about it. She really is. But every once in a while, she'd be like, sure, we're out late last night. But it's the same thing. I'm like, Dina, there's at least 4 or 5 people at that table that have provided a lot of money for this family. I would hope you're okay with me going lose a little bit of it so that we continue to stay friends and they utilize our company going forward and they tell everybody. Those are true statements. And to me, those are the best type of networking groups you have. Whether it's you like to play volleyball, you like to play softball, you like to do scrapbooking, that's a big one, bunco. All those things are core networking. Now we're running out of time. We didn't even get to like the volunteering states. Whether you volunteer at United Way, Special Olympics, whether you volunteer at your church. There are numerous things you can do to lead generate. It's up to you to actually do them. It's up to you to get out there and do them. We can't make you lead generate. All we can do is show you what to do and offer our help. I want to thank you all for watching. This is a really good show for people who struggle with lead generation. We honestly touched just the tip of the icebergs. I mean, really, we did not even get into what the major core of this conversation is. But the guys did a very good job on the summary section, because this is a very good setup for future shows that we can go into and spend a little bit more time on this. I want to thank everybody for watching. Love all the archives. Make sure you share out our show to everybody else. Tell them, hey, look, these guys do a really good job of explaining the operational side, the emotional side, not the textbook side. Very hard to find. So give us a watch. Send them off to your clients that you have trouble with on certain sections that you think might help them. But again, thank you for your continued watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.